The Jayman Show on WBCA 102.9 FM, Boston's local community radio station. I'm your host, Jaiye Bynoe. My guest today is Jeff Van Dreason, a professor from Roxbury Community College. Hi, Jeff. How you doing?
Hi.
Good to see you on the show today.
Thanks for having me. I'm honored to be on.
Absolutely. Okay, so can you tell me a little bit about yourself and what you do as a professor at Roxbury Community College, where I went to college?
Sure. I'm actually not a professor. I used to be a professor, but my role at RCC is as a dean. I was hired last year as the Dean of Arts, Humanities, and Social Sciences. My new role, as of just a couple weeks ago, is Dean of Instruction. They're giving me a couple other programs to oversee. So I sort of manage the faculty in the English department, the arts department, the language department, soon to be the math department, science department, broadcast media, and engineering. I think I might have missed one too. Social science, I missed, and humanities. So I kind of help the faculty deal with problems that come up. I also help students with issues that come up and try to make sure that everything's kind of working at the college the best they can in the academic division.
Okay, that's wonderful to hear, because like I said, because my experience at RCC was wonderful, and now I'm going to be going to Emerson in the wintertime, like you said, get my bachelor's degree in film and media. So yeah, and
it's great. I love Emerson. That's where I went for grad school. It was a great experience. I think it would be a great fit for you. I think they'd be happy to have you. So
yeah, I'm looking forward to myself. So I can't wait. Yeah. So so what made you interested in media and film production?
In media and film production?
Yeah, because I remember that we met, and you were that we met at RCC, right? And you were doing like films, right? So I remember I sent some of my songs and videos you liked, so.
I haven't done much film production, to be honest with you. I have done some podcast production. So that's a good question. I love movies for one thing. So I'm a huge, at one point I thought about getting my master's in a film degree. Because in undergrad, I really kind of discovered a love of film. They used to have a film library at my first college, which was a community college. And it was I didn't have a lot to do back then. I didn't have a lot of money, so I would kind of go to the library and just rent out lots of movies, old movies, classic movies, and I'd watch them. And I started reading more about it, and I'd really get into film. And then later, when I transferred after my community college experience, I found that I really did a good job writing about film and analyzing film, and I really loved that. So I almost pursued a film degree, a film master's degree when I went to get my master's. But my other love is creative writing, and that's something I really love doing as well. So I went to Emerson to get a master's degree in fine arts and creative writing. So that's sort of what I specified in. That being said, I have written a few film scripts, and I've done a couple of small film projects with friends, just not anything that's like out there to be viewed, but sort of just fun projects that we've done. And I used to be a playwright too. I used to write some plays, and a friend of mine who also went to Emerson in the same program as myself, a few years ago, he reached out and said, I'd like to sort of make a fiction podcast. Would you be interested in helping me with that? So I collaborate with him on a fiction podcast called Greater Boston. And it's a very strange, surreal kind of story. It's set in like an alt universe Boston, where the MBTA line, the red line, kind of becomes its own city, becomes its own municipality, and secedes from Boston and Cambridge and the other areas it serves. And it's weird. And there's lots of interconnected stories and things like that. So I try to express my creative side through that way. And it involves lots of things like this, recording people, lots of editing and sound effects and production. So.
Well, that's wonderful to hear. Have you ever thought about maybe becoming an actor?
Well, I have acted before. I'm not the best actor, in my opinion. I voice act on the show that I make with my friend, like I said, but I have a small part because I don't have a lot of range. Like what you hear, this is it. This is all I can do. I've acted on stage in undergrad, but again, it's not my strong suit. I get very nervous. I'm sorry, my air conditioner just kicked on. It's super loud. So it's not the thing that I kind of love doing. I do like to direct actors. I've directed actors both in plays and theater, and also on the podcast I make, voice acting, directing. So that's something I love to do, but acting isn't for me. I don't know. How about yourself? Do you ever act? Is that something you do?
Yes, I'm actually acting myself. I was actually in a film called What's That Happened with Martin Law as an extra, and I'm also a member of Boston Casting, and I'm trying to get cast in this movie called I Want to Dance to Somebody about Whitney Houston, and for extra, so they're looking for a singer.
Awesome.
I applied for a singing position for a singing part in that movie as well as the actor. So hopefully,
Great.
I hope I'll hear back next month. But yeah, but acting is my love. I want to be an actor, as much as
Yeah.
a singer, a songwriter. Yeah. So that's why I went to Emerson. So I'm trying to go to Emerson so I can maybe, branch out into filming that and learn behind the scenes as well as the fun side of the business, so I can do it all. So, and I think that if I can do that, then I can go far.
That's great. Yeah, best of luck to you. I think that, there's lots of movies being made in the Boston area right now because of the tax credit and everything else. It's just a great location for filmmaking. So, getting in as the extra and any work that you can do, I think that they're always looking for, and this is why Emerson's a great choice for you too. They're always looking for work on film shoots. There's always a ton to do. And it's a type of thing where you have to start as like a PA usually or lower even. But that can lead to lots of opportunities. And since there's so much local filming, and I don't think it's going away anytime soon, if you're really interested in that kind of work, whether it's acting or whether it's anything else, there are doors that can like open up for you. And then if you meet the right people, you can kind of go where you want to go, I think. So, yeah.
Yeah, so I definitely agree. And that's why, like I said, I'm not applying for Emerson for me. I'm really excited, but I think this is the best one for me, so because I want to continue my education as well, so I can have a bachelor's degree, and make more money, but not about the money, but just be able to live comfortably, so I can, maybe have a house in Florida or California, and to do that. And
lots of Emerson students in California. They've got they call them the Emerson Mafia in LA. So
yeah, because I know that in order to have a successful career, you have to have a college education, right? Because and I know if you don't.
Absolutely.
I know that I learned that if you don't, you're not going to go far, So it's good to have a college degree to fall back from, so it makes good money and live a good life, So that's what I learned from RCC.
Yeah.
That's what I'm trying and go to Emerson, so I can, just get my degree and hopefully make my dreams come true. So I think that's what it's about,
Great. I think that's a great plan.
Me too. Yeah. So what made you decide to teach at Roxbury Community College?
Well, again, I don't teach. I wish I did. I miss teaching. But I came here because I really love the mission of the college, and it really spoke to me. It fit with my background. I used to teach at a small 2-year technical college in Boston, in the South End, called Benjamin Franklin Institute of Technology. And I was an English instructor there. I taught history. I taught film classes, actually. I taught a couple film classes. And other things like technical communication and other courses like that. And I started as an adjunct instructor there like 15, 16 years ago. And then I was hired full time. And then I just kept getting asked to do more. So I was asked to be the department chair after a while for the humanities department. And then I was asked to be the interim dean of academics. And so I got more and more into the administrative responsibilities. And it turns out I don't want to pat myself on the back, but it turns out I'm pretty good at that kind of thing. So an opportunity came up. BFIT was kind of going through, BFIT was kind of going through a lot of changes. And I really was excited at the idea of kind of taking my administrative skills, working with a similar population. RCC's population is a little older than who I was working with BFIT. They were mostly kind of students that are fresh out of high school. And the average age, there's plenty of high school students that come to RCC too, but the average age of RCC students is a little more adult learner based, but otherwise similar population. And I really like working with that population. So, and I like the idea of kind of working, although this has changed since, but kind of helping students connect with their artistic ambitions, like things that you want to do and are interested in. And I'm still going to be doing that work, like exploring drawing, painting, acting, filmmaking, production. That really excites me. And I think it's something that, unfortunately, I think that there's less and less emphasis on at college because, and there's nothing wrong with this, but college is increasingly being kind of discussed as a place where you go as a path to make money. And I think that should be what it is to an extent, but it should also be giving students opportunities to express themselves and explore. And so I really feel like that's that has to be a big component of what community colleges especially do, because I think students in the communities we serve aren't always given the opportunities other students should be given. And I want to make sure that those students have those opportunities to explore drawing, painting, dance, acting, filmmaking, production, things like that. And so that really excited me about the prospect of kind of helping with that and doing that kind of work. So I'd say that's why I came.
Well, yeah, and that's definitely a good reason because like you said, I agree with you. I mean, college is to help you, decide what you'll live life. It's not about getting a job and getting money. It's about, trying to find yourself, what makes you happy. And
ultimately it's about learning, and if you're learning that, you're trying to sort of explore the things that you love to do, that's a big part of it, right? And maybe you have been exposed to that and you want to learn more about it, or maybe you haven't been exposed to it and you want to learn and explore that this is something you're interested in.
Yeah.
So that's sort of, yeah, I agree with you. It's a big part of it.
Yes, I kind of said better myself, that's definitely an important lesson to be learned and taught, at a young age, So yeah. So how did this pandemic, affect you? I mean, everything shut down. How did it affect you?
How did it affect me? It was wild. I mean, I was the assistant dean of academics at the time at BFIT, and my supervisor at the time was telling me, this thing was going to get very serious very fast. And I have to admit, like at first so my wife works in healthcare. And so I was listening to podcasts, and all the podcasts were saying, like, this is coming, this is going to be a big problem. Like, it's exploding in China. It's only going to be a matter of time before it's a worldwide problem. And I would mention that to her, and she'd say, no. And I'd say, okay, well, you're in healthcare, so if you're not worried about it, I shouldn't be worried about it. So I stopped worrying about it. And then the next thing I know, my boss started talking to me and saying, like, this is going to be a big problem. You have to start making preparations. And so I was kind of like, well, all right, we'll see. I wasn't taking it that seriously at that point. And then the next thing I know, we had to shut down. I remember very distinctly, we had to contact all the faculty that we were working with right before spring break and tell them what we were planning on doing. And it was a little nuts. And then a few months after that, I had a new job. Like things changed so quickly. I was home with my daughter. My wife, since she works in healthcare, was still going in every day. I was home with my daughter, trying to get her through kindergarten, through virtual school, which was not fun. Kindergartners and virtual school don't mix. We were all quickly adjusting to a very different kind of work dynamic. I was trying to lead a course I was teaching at the time through virtual courses, which was a complete 180 from what we had started with. And they were having a difficult time because it wasn't just my course, it was all their courses and their whole lives. And many of them were getting laid off. The economy was kind of all over the place. I won't lie, it was tough. It was difficult, especially when there was so much confusion and not everybody kind of knew what was happening at first. And, we're still learning how the pandemic is and how COVID is changing. And, it's been a real ride. But I think that one thing I'm really grateful for is that in some ways it pushed me to be even closer with my family. It's just myself, my wife, and my daughter. And we really depended on each other to get through some really difficult days. Not that I wasn't close to them before, but it really made me appreciate them and appreciate my place in the family more. And so that was something that I kind of learned about myself and was able to sort of say, okay, I need to center my life on what the center of my life is, which is my family, and really kind of take stock in that and be happy with that, because they really helped me a lot. Because, all of us had tough days. I don't think not just, me and myself and my family, but every single person that was experiencing the pandemic. I don't think there's a single person that lived through it and was like, every day is great, right? I'd be surprised if that was the case. But the three of us we all had our tough days, and we tried to make sure that if one of us was having a tough day, the other ones were there to help them out. So how about you? How did you deal with it?
Well, it was really tough, I learned how to classes on Zoom, Teams. It was tough, but I was able to get help and figure it out. But still, and now it's kind of easy now, but I think, and it was tough on having everything be shut down and having to walk around, with a mask on, make sure that I got vaccinated and I make sure that I stay healthy and Yeah, it's still tough, because because when I flew to Florida, I had red mouth and I'm saying, you know,
Yeah.
and you couldn't even how the cards about this world, it's definitely a major thing, and I'm hoping that this thing ends soon, because I want to get back to my life, and
I know.
but then again, it was also a blessing too, because having classes on Zoom was sort of helped, to had to go on the class, so it was a blessing because I was able to have classes on Zoom with some of my households, and so that was kind of a blessing, So, and if I can take classes on Zoom, maybe Emerson or in class part time, that might sort of help, So, but yeah, so
Yeah.
so it's good about everything else. So flying wasn't good, but having classes on Zoom once you got used to was a little better for me. So so
Good. Glad to hear it.
yeah. Okay, so I guess my next question is, what advice can you give artists and actors that want to be, maybe that want to be an actor or successful? What advice can you give us?
That's a good question. I would say the best piece of advice I can give you is try not to get discouraged. Try to be open to feedback and criticism, but don't internalize it, and don't listen. I guess this is the thing I'm trying to say. Listen to what's helpful, ignore the rest. There's always going to be people that don't get you or get what you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
And they might have some good things to point out to you that you can learn from, and you can learn from those parts of it. But don't let it bother you. Don't internalize it to the point where it's hurtful. And also, sometimes people are going to try to be helpful, giving you feedback, giving you advice. And some of what they're telling you might be helpful. Not all of it is. And it's a real skill, and it takes practice to learn, to figure out what pieces of advice they're telling you that you can use, that you should use, and what you should sort of ignore. And sometimes you don't know at first, and you might even take some of their advice and try to apply it, and it just doesn't feel right. It's not working for you, right? And that's when you know what? I think that they were trying to be helpful here, but the advice they're telling me just isn't quite right. Maybe a piece of it is, maybe a small part of it is, but I have to figure out, one, if this needs to be changed, adjusted, fixed, whatever, or if it's fine the way it was, or two, if I should do it in a different way, because I think that they might have been onto something, but it's not in the way that they were suggesting. So that's the biggest piece. It's really difficult, I think, for anybody trying to do anything creative, not to take things personally and be sensitive about it. Because if you're creating something, or if you're acting, and acting is essentially you're creating a performance, right? You're creating a different person with your body, with your mouth, your mannerisms, etc. It's really hard not to get emotional about feedback and criticism, things like that. You almost have to separate it out and say, this isn't about me. This is about the thing I'm making. And yes, I'm making it, but no one does anything by themselves. No single person creates in a bubble. Even the most, most popular artists in the world get feedback and get support and help from others. And the more those people that there are, the more feedback and support that they get, and the more disconnected they are from their own feelings and that support that they're receiving. But they've also learned when to accept it and when to sort of second guess it. And that, again, that takes a lot of work, and it's a real skill to develop. But if you, just like anything else, if you work at it, you can develop those skills. And that's the other piece of advice. Just, it's work. It's not, it can be something you do for fun, and that's fine. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. But if you're really interested in pursuing creative pursuits, you have to work on it. And frequently what's hard about that is it doesn't pay, right? So when I was writing plays, when I was writing fiction and sending it out, even when I'm making my podcast, I don't get a lot of money from it. And it takes a lot of work. So you have to make sure that you're willing to sort of that you get enough out of it, enjoyment, creative satisfaction, whatever it is, that it's worth it. Because you have to love it, because if you don't love it, it takes a lot of work, especially to be successful. And it's not a lucrative business. You're not going to be raking in tons of dough unless you hit the big time, and the chances of hitting the big time are, I hate to say it, pretty slim. Doesn't mean you shouldn't try, but especially if you're looking to hit the big time, that's going to take even more work, because then you have to market yourself. You have to sort of it's more than just making the thing. It's the energy and time you have to put into selling it too. And when you're first starting out, you know, that's, unless you have an agent, and that's usually further on down the line, that is going to be on you yourself. So work hard and get advice and feedback, but figure out what to accept and what not to. That's my advice.
Okay. Yeah, I guess that's true. You know, that's some good information, you know, for us to hear, you know, because that's what it's about. Yeah. And okay, so where do you see yourself, you know, years from now? Still teaching, or I mean, not teaching, but still working at the school. What lies ahead for you in your future?
Yeah, I don't think I'm going anywhere. This is the work that I've chosen. This is the career for me. And I see my career kind of in two paths, right? Like there's the academic side that will be my career. You know, I'd like for it to include teaching. Right now, that doesn't look like it's going to happen. Maybe in the future it will. I don't know. We'll see. But in either case, like working with a population very similar to RCC's, or working at RCC in this role or a similar role, and then also kind of continue to try to find the time, which is getting increasingly difficult, for the creative pursuits. But that's where I see myself. Yeah.
Okay, and what do you like to do in the spare time for fun when you're not, you know, at school? What do you like to do for fun? What inspires you, gives you inspiration?
Music. I love music. I love listening to music. I can't make any music. I'm not as talented as you are. I wish I was. One day, maybe I you know, I always thought I'd learn guitar, but I just don't have the patience for it. You know, it's cheesy, but I love to write in my spare time because, you know, while that is sort of work in a way, it does really bring me joy and satisfaction. So that's the biggest thing that I do. But I also listen to a lot of music. I collect records. I'm a vinyl collector, so I love that. I like to ride my bike. I'm a big bike rider. I ride to work when the weather's nice, or even on hot days like this. What else? I like to take walks. I like to exercise. Again, riding the bike or jog if I have the time. And again, if the weather's decent. But I like going to shows. I haven't done that in a long time. But I like going to see music live. I love film. I love movies. So I'll go to the movies, especially old movies. I like to go check those out. And occasionally video games. I'm not above the occasional video game. It's a nice stress relief every now and again.
Yeah, that's good to hear. So what do you think we can do to change the world and make the world better in your opinion?
I'm sorry, I missed that. What'd you say?
So what do you think we can do to change the world to make the world better in your opinion? How can we change the world? Maybe? Work together.
How could we change the world?
Better.
Wow, that's a big question. The answer might be controversial.
That's fine. Take your time.
I strongly believe that we should make money less of a priority. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think that money being the end all be all of everything is doing serious detrimental damage to the earth, mm-hmm. and to people. And until we sort of reevaluate that, we are headed for, and I don't mean this, as hyperbole. We're heading for destruction. I think, you know, climate change is an extremely serious problem, and it's not a problem that you and I ourselves can address. It's much more complex and global and tied up with, you know, corporate entities that aren't interested in changing because it affects their bottom line. And unless they really take a look at it, and this is not just this, but this is a big component of it, unless they take a look at that and evaluate, I'm worried that in the future, you know, there won't be profits to make because there won't be people that can inhabit the world. So, you know, that's a big one. I think that right now, the mentality, the worldwide mentality seems to be, and this comes very much from United States culture, squeezing every last dime out of the earth. And I think we have to stop squeezing, because if we keep squeezing, there's not going to be anything left to squeeze for anyone. We're going to be in serious trouble. So that's my answer to that. So
I definitely agree with that, because money, people think that their money is everything, and it's really not, you know. So that I agree, that can be a sort of problem. You know, some money, you know, yeah, there's a problem. I kind of agree. I was just saying, yeah. So so how can we find you on social media if we want to reach out to you? Are you available on social media?
I'm not really on social media, to be completely honest with you. I try to avoid it. If anybody wants to reach out to me, they can email me at my Roxbury email address. It's let's see, JV Dreason, JVDREASON at rcc.mass.edu. And if you like podcasts, you can listen to my podcast. I will warn you, it's pretty strange. But you look up, if I open up like Apple Podcasts or Spotify, and if you look up Greater Boston, you'll see a picture of the Boston skyline upside down, and you'll see Greater Boston. That's the show that I co-write and co-produce. Feel free to check that out there too. And I think there's a Twitter account connected with that show that's called @InGreaterBoston on Twitter. So feel free to reach out to us there. So.
Okay, that's wonderful. This is a wonderful interview. I'm so glad to learn more about you as a teacher. And I mean, well, as a professor, and whatever what you do, because I think you're such great get to meet you, even though you meet you and learn about you in your show, because I think it's a great show. I'm gonna check it out, and just learn about what you've been through, how you helped me, get Emerson, and yeah, so this is. I'm glad we had time to talk,
Me too. Thank you. And best of luck to Emerson. If there's anything I can do to help, let me know. Okay.
Well, thank you. I'll definitely be in touch, So thank you for your time. I'll talk to you soon. I appreciate it.
Anytime. Sounds good. Thanks, Jaiye.
Yeah.